About this. Have y'all ever played the game of life? The board game? It's not as exciting as a video game, but have you ever played? How many of you have ever played that game? Or you played it with your children or your grandchildren? You ever seen them play? You know the board game I'm talking about? You've seen it in the store. It says L-I-F-E, life. This is a different color. Anyway, have you ever played it? It's kind of a cool game. I mean, for a board game, it's not as exciting as playing video games, but have a lot of action and stuff. And it's kind of real. You know, it's kind of real life. And some stuff is chance. You know, you have to spin and get a number to see how far you move up the thing. But some of it is real life choices. You know, the choices that we make. Like, you know, do I get married? Like, should I get married or stay single? Should I go to college or should I just go the quicker route and just hit it running right off the bat and not take that detour and go through college and waste time? What should I do? You know, should I have kids? How many kids? Boy, girl, what should I get? It's all those lights. It sounds kind of real, doesn't it? And all the time you're doing these, making these choices, you're winding your way down the board, you know, going towards the finish line. And then you get to the end, there's a couple of possible endings, and you get to cash in everything you got. That's where it gets kind of unreal. Because when we all get to the end of life, and we're all going to get there, right? We can agree, let's all agree on one thing. At some point, we're all going to get there, to the end of the game. That when we get there, we don't get to cash in, right? You don't, all the stuff you collected, all the things you have, they're not your stuff anymore. They're somebody else's stuff, right? Somebody's going to inherit them, somebody's going to buy them. So all the things you've worked they're not yours. You don't get to take them with you. You don't get to go to the other side and say, look what I got. You know, look what I brought. They wouldn't do you any good over there anyway. It doesn't really matter. Those are for this world. They're not for the next world. So I don't know why we have this fascination with collecting stuff as a society. You know? I need more. I need more. I need the fastest and the brightest and the newest things. You know? I got an iPhone 6. Oh, wow. They haven't come out yet. Just kidding. But people say, I got a 5, I got a 6, I got a 4. Why do we have to do this? What's so? Well, it spells my name backwards. Or whatever it is, you know, some special feature. You know, why do we need those things? You know, we're obsessed with collecting. I got to have the money. And don't get me wrong, I like things like everybody else. I think we all like things to some degree. I mean, we go walk around Best Buy and I'm amazed. Pictures. Have you seen the pictures on these TVs now? I mean, you can just reach into those TVs. And I'm excited, not because I can afford it today, because it's like $3,000 for those TVs, but it's exciting because I know one day, those TVs will be down to a normal price. You know, the TVs that are $300 or $400 a day, 3 or 4 years ago, they were $1,500, $2,000. Now they're down to where everybody can get one. Sometimes I think they want to give you a TV if you buy a box of Cracker Jacks. But I mean, it's just gotten to the technology's gotten later, you know. And so I'm excited that one day, you know, I'll be able to have, you know, those things, but I can't have them today. So don't get me wrong, I'm not a big saying don't have things. I'm just saying, why are we so obsessed with it? What does it really matter? What we got. How big your house is. Can't take it with you. Whether you have a penny or a million, guess what? You can't take it with you. Well, a penny you have a better chance because you can probably fit that in your pocket. But a million, it doesn't really matter. And it'd be worthless over there anyway. You know, I remember the story of the man who made a deal with God. Said, you know, I'll be charitable beyond your belief if you would just let me take one suitcase with me to heaven when I go. And God said, all right. And the man was true to his word. He gave and gave and gave and gave. And he packed that suitcase. And he had it sitting by his bed. Because he knew, he didn't know when, but at some point he would be called home. And sure enough, one night in his sleep, the man was called home. And as he was leaving, he reached down and grabbed that suitcase. Because he had God's promise he could take that with him to heaven. He got to the gate. And St. Peter was there and he said, you can come on in, but what? You have to leave your bag here. He said, no. I got this note from God. Says I can bring one bag. Same bag. Peter looked at the note. Looks legitimate. He called John over and said, John, look at this. I like God's signature right there. Oh yeah, it's good. It's good. So he said, let me see what's in that bag. Because I got to see what's in this bag that you just had that bring up here. So the guy lifts it up, he puts it on the counter. St. Peter opens it up, calls John over. John looks at it. They start laughing. I mean, it's like, what's so funny? He said, you know, you could have brought anything from earth that you wanted to bring. You had this special note from God, so you could bring anything you want. And you brought these bars of gold. We paved the streets for that up here. So you just brought asphalt. What's wrong with you? So, you know, things that we value here and go crazy about have no value up there where we're going. You know, God doesn't go crazy about the things. He created those things. He doesn't need your money. He said, but you know, there will be a day that we'll be held accountable. There will be a judgment day for all of us. Do you believe that? Because I believe that. With all my heart and all my mind and all my soul, I know that someday I'll be held to account for the things I've done here, which brings us to our scripture reading today. This is Matthew 25, 31 through 40. And I'm going to give y'all just a second to find it. I know some of y'all didn't see it when I announced it before. 25, 31 through 40. It says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another, as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put sheep on the right and goats on the left. Then the king will say to those on the right, come, you who are blessed by my Father, take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go visit you? The king will reply, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers or sisters of mine, you did for me. You know, there will be a day of accountability. And when we get there, I don't think God's going to ask, Billy, what's the square footage of your house? Or Jim, what kind of car did you drive? He's not going to ask those things. He's not going to say, is that a Rolex or a Timex? Because he don't care. But there will be a day of accounting. So what does that day look like? Have you ever thought about that? How do you imagine it being? I know some people see it like a courtroom, you know, and they'll be on trial for their life. And they'll be presenting all the bad things against them. Or maybe they're even just trying to prove they're a Christian. I don't know, whichever way you see it in your mind. Maybe you'll have a good lawyer. I hope you have maybe Perry Mason or Matlock or somebody like that up there to defend you. Somebody can figure it out and defend you. But how's that going to work out? You know? And will Jesus be the star witness that shows up at the end and says, doesn't matter what he's done because, you know what? He's mine. And I paid for his sins. So anything you can, any punishment you're going to give him, I've already paid that price. Is that how you see it playing out, that day of judgment? Or maybe you just see it as you go up there and there's going to be a Peter standing at the gate with a book. You know, the book of life. And he's going to be a line and you'll get up there and he'll say name, first name, last name, middle initial. You know, maybe that's how you see it. And then you start wondering, I ain't got a middle initial. What if he gets me confused with somebody else? What if I'm not on that list? Do I need my social security number? These are important things. Well, I never can remember my social security. My spouse isn't here. They're the ones who always remember that for me. I don't have my iPhone. What's going to happen to me? Hey, what if he gets me confused with somebody else? Now, what if my name's not in the book? Do I get to appeal it? Maybe there's been a mistake. You know, I've had a good life. Is that how you see this going down? I mean, what? How do you see it? I remember my daughter used to always, she'd ask for me for things, and I'd always ask her, says, your name on the list? And she said, yeah. I said, what's your name? She said, Tori. I said, no, it's not. I said, could it be under something else? She said, Tori Hall. I said, no, I'm not seeing it. Anything else? She said, Victoria Marie Hall. I said, no. And basically she would just get tired and go away, and I wouldn't have to give her what she wanted, which was my plan all along, until one day she came to me, she was about 4 or 5, and I said, what? She asked me for them. I said, what's your name? She said, Tori. And I said, are you on the list? She said, not only am I on that list, I'm on the top of that list. Well, I could only laugh and give her what she wanted because I had no response for that. I really wasn't ready for it. You know, and I hope when I get to heaven, if there's a list, and I hope I go to see St. Peter, and he says, your name on the list, I said, yeah, Ken Hall, and it's on the top of the list, and you let me in. I hope that's the answer I can give him, but I don't know. I don't know how all that works. You know, lately I've been thinking about how would that play out? How does the whole thing play out? And to me, it plays out more like a son coming home late at night, like as a teenager. You know, and you know, you're trying to quietly just kind of ease your way in, and Dad sitting in the recliner with just the lamp light on, you know. And how'd it go tonight? What'd you do? You know, you ever had that moment? I can tell from some of your looks on your face, they're reliving it in their mind. Yeah, I remember that. It didn't go well. You know, and maybe as a father, or you know, asking the father, asking the daughter or the son, how'd it go? I see God saying, so, what'd you do with that life I gave you? I gave you that free will to make choices. How'd they work out for you? How'd you do? I mean, I don't know how I'll respond to that. You know, how would you respond to that? You know, I'd be like shaking in my boots. I'd be like, oh man, do I start confessing now? I mean, how long does he have? You know, what all the things that I probably just didn't measure up in, how's it going to go? Or will I be like really full of myself, you know, and I'll be like, oh, you know, God, you know, I started walking early. Mom was proud. You should have been, I mean, it was great. And then, you know, I won some trophies and some ribbons, like running track and playing basketball. I was a slam dunk contest winner. I don't know if you saw that guy. You probably visited that day. But I was, and I got this big trophy, you know, and I did really good. And I completed college, made some good grades, you know, I made some money. And then, you know, like I had a really nice car one time, but I wrecked that. But then, you know, I had some nice cars, and I had a nice house, and I had some. I raised some really great kids. God, they went out, and they did great things, and they loved you, God. By the way, they said just say hello, and you know, it's really, you know, I've done all these wonderful things, and I married, you know, way above myself. My friends say I'm an overachiever, but you know, God, you know that, you know all those things about me already, you know. A pretty good life, you know, I was pretty good. Where's my room? I need to freshen up. You know, is that how it's going to go? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think I'd ever be that full of myself. But how would that go? You know, how do you picture it going? Because I don't picture it that way. You know. Did you notice in all those statements, and I was explaining myself, what was the center of everything I said? Me? I did all those things. Did you ever notice that the letter I is the middle letter of the word sin? Did you ever notice that? Have you? The letter I is the middle letter in the word sin. I think when we put ourselves in the center, we put I in the center, when we do what I want to do, is exactly when we do sin. You know, we talk about sin being missing the mark, right? It's an archer term, sin. And it means to miss the mark. And so when we start doing what I want to do, and I put myself in the center, and not God in the center, I miss the mark. Because I'm doing what I want to do. You know, it used to be the Trinity was who? Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. In today's society, I think the triangle is me, myself, and I is how we act, isn't it? It's all about me. What's good for me? What feels good for me? What benefits me? That's what it's all about. With very little regard for anyone else in our society. And we fall short. And we sin. We all do. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I point at you. I'm three. They're pointing back at me. I'm not pointing at you. I'm just pointing out the obvious. We can't have ourselves as a center. We can't be the center of our universe. We need something more than us. We need God, right? We need to put God in the center of what we do. Not ourselves. And we can't deny that sin's out there, right? We read about it every day. You pick up the newspaper, what do you see? Bad stuff, right? You turn on the local news, bad stuff. Let's go global instead. Bad stuff. People are getting abused. People are getting hurt. The strong taking advantage of the weak. Children being abused, being abducted. You hear about it. It's sin. It's not what God intended. The elderly being scammed out of their life savings. It's sin. It's bad. It's not what God intended for this world. Right? Businesses cheating people out of money. Calling it business as usual. It's not right. It's not what God intended. And where does all that come from? From people being self-centered. I'm going to do what's best for me. And good luck to you. Right? I want to be fair to you. I used to work for a guy. And that was his famous line. He would always tell vendors, right before he was about to nail them to the wall, I want to be fair to you, but I have to be fair to me. And then he would take them for everything they were worth. I was like, man, ain't nothing fair about that. You should have at least warned them, right? But it's out there, and we can't deny it. Sin. Nobody likes to talk about it. It's a dirty word, right? It makes us feel uncomfortable. It makes us feel unclean. Can we talk about something good? Can we talk about something joyful? Sure, let's be joyful. I'm all about that. But let's change our focus. We need to change our focus. We need to stop concentrating on what's good for me and listen to thee. Right? God gave us a very simple plan. Don't even worry about the 10. Don't worry about the 10 commandments because they're all sewed up in 2. He gave it to you in 2. He made it 2 so you can remember 1 and 2. He's love the Lord your God with all your, heart and mind and soul. He didn't say, give me half a candy bar. He didn't say, give me half your heart, half your mind, half your soul. He said, just love me like there's no tomorrow. Love me with all that you are. Love me with all that you have. Put me number 1. Make me the center of your life. Rule number 1. That's not hard. You want me to repeat it for you? You want me to write it down? It's not hard. We make it hard because we want to be in charge. Right? And when we want to be in charge, what in essence we do is we turn our backs on God. And we say, you know what? That's good, but I know better. My way is better than your way. I know you created the universe. That has nothing to do with this, God. My way is better. I know you're like everything, you know everything. You've been you were there at the beginning, you're there at the end. I know you know all that stuff, Lord. I trust it, but in this situation, God, I know this. That's what we're saying. And how silly, we snicker, but how silly is that? Can we get any more stupid? I sure hope you can fix stupid. You can't be any more stupid than think you're smarter than God. And we need to fix that. But that's how we operate our lives. Our lives. Right? And we need to put God back in the center. We need to make Him the center of what we are and who we are. Because you see, when we do that, then we take care of the hungry. We take care of those who need shelter. We take care of other people. Because, see, that was the second commandment. Love your neighbor as yourself. Now, a lot of people know the first one, they kind of edge on the second. Love your neighbor as yourself. Who's my neighbor? I only have 2 neighbors, one on each side. I barely know their names. Who's really my neighbor? Everyone. So when you see that person who needs to eat, feed them. But what if it's a scam? Well, buy them a hamburger. Feed them. Do something for someone else. Quit concentrating on you. Remember, when at the end of your days, everything that you have is going to be somebody else's stuff anyway. Be good to somebody. Maybe it's your own children. Maybe it's the neighbor. Maybe it's a stranger. God calls on us to be a reflection of His love. He forgave you. Can you forgive others? That's hard, isn't it? Boy. You don't know what they've done to you. Yeah, I know. I don't. But still, we're called to forgive. Right? See, when we have that heart where God's at our center, not us at the center, because I don't want to forgive. And I don't want to forget, but God says, forgive. That's hard. But that's what we do, because we know God's forgiveness. Love your neighbor. It's hard sometimes, but we know God's love. Right? And how He loved us. And yet we weren't deserving of that. We didn't do anything special. But He loved us anyway. He loved us before we were even born. He knew He had a plan for you. Right? That's amazing. You sit there and think about it. And He had a plan. He knew that one Sunday I was going to come here and I was going to preach a sermon and I was going to have a children's moment and I was going to have 2 candy bars.
Let it go.
And somebody was going to get my candy bars, or no. And I was going to, He knew all that. He's already been there. But He knew it would be okay too. But see, you got to put God at the center. You got to trust in God in all that you do. And when you wake up in the morning, you say, today is your day. Now how can I play? What part am I going to be in it? Not, this is my day. And if I get around to you, God, I get around to you. We need to start our day with God. We need to end our day with God. And in the middle, we need to be reflecting God. He needs to be the focus, the center. He needs to be the all in all. So when that final day comes, and you're standing before Him, what will be your answer when He says, so what did you do with this life? Did you feed the hungry? Did you give water to those who were thirsty? Did you spread my word? Did you spread my love? Or are you a reflection of the gospel in your daily life? What will be your answer? It's just like the game of life, a lot of choices, right? What are you going to choose? While you contemplate that, let me give you a little story. There once was a man, a wise man, and there once was a prince. And they lived in the same country. And the wise man was loved by everybody around him. He was kind and he was gentle. And he gave them advice on how to live their life. And people just loved him. They were just drawn to him. And the prince, not so much. He stayed in his own house. He didn't mingle with the people much. He just wanted them to love him anyway. And he despised the wise man. So one day he came up with a plan. He was going to trick the wise man. He said, tomorrow I'll go into the village with a dove in my hand. He said, and I'll ask the wise man in front of all his people, is the bird in my hand alive or is it dead? He said, if the wise man answers he's alive, then I'll crush it and drop it to the ground. And he said, if the wise man says the bird's dead, then I'll release it into the air. But either way, I'm going to prove him wrong. Smart plan. So the next day, he goes out into the village. He's dressed as a peasant. You know, princes can only dress so much like a peasant. You know, but anyway, he's dressed as a peasant. And he makes his way, he finds the wise man, talking among the people. And he calls him out and says, wise man, in my hand I have a bird. And I ask you, is this bird alive or is it dead? And the wise man, being wise, realized it was the prince. And realized what he was trying to do. He was trying to make him look bad in front of all the people. And he smiled. And he looked at him and he said, ultimately, what you have in your hands is what you make of it. And that is so true. The life you've been given is what you make of it. What will you make of yours? What will your answer be? When God asked me on that day, whenever that day is, so, what did you do with your life? I hope, my prayer is, that I can answer, I reflected your love so that you may be glorified. Each and every day. And all God's people said, Amen.